Hey everyone, in this new stitch video, I'm going to show you how to do this star stitch. There's different ways to do star stitches, or where the pattern looks like it's a star, or sometimes they're called knotty stitches because it almost looks like it's formed a knot. And a few videos back I demonstrated how to do the Edelweiss stitch, which has a similar look, but this one is more of an open work lace pattern. And as you can see, the fabric lays pretty flat. I haven't blocked this little sample piece, and this is what the wrong side looks like, and this is the right side. I think this is a great pattern to try for shawls or blankets or even scarves. Actually, the project that I think I would do with this would be a cowl. And I'll provide more details about that towards the end. I haven't done a project yet, but I can certainly give you the idea that I have. But let me show you how to knit the stitch. It is knit on a multiple of 3 stitches, and it's actually a repeat of 6 rows. So I've provided the pattern details in the description field, and I would put this stitch at an advanced beginner going towards an intermediate level, because it can be a little bit complex. The good thing is 3 rows out of the 6 rows are just purl all the way across. So you start off by casting a multiple of 3 stitches. So I have 12 stitches here, which is a multiple of 3, and I'm going to start with row 1, which is just a purl all the way across. Now, 2 things to remember with this pattern. You want to have needles that are slightly larger than the typical size recommended for the yarn. So I'm actually using the same yarn that I had for that sample, that I used for the sample, and I'm using size 8 needles here. You don't need double pointed needles, just regular needles are fine. But you want the needles to be a slightly larger size than you would normally use, and for the needles to have really pointy edges. That really helps with this stitch, and you'll see why in just a second. The other thing that you want to do when you knit this, and you'll notice how I'm knitting here, it's really loose. You want to have a very loose tension when you knit this stitch. Okay, so the first row is just all purl, then you're going to turn your work, and now for row 2, your first stitch is just going to be a knit one. And here's the main stitch, the main stitch to make that little knotty or star structure. And once you know this, you're pretty much going to be repeating the same thing for the rows that are going to have this pattern. So the pattern will tell you to knit 3 stitches together through the back loop. So you're going to take your right needle and you're going to insert it into the back loops of all 3 stitches, as you can see me doing here, right? All 3 at the same time, and I know it's going to feel a little tight. This is why very important to keep the tension very loose. You're going to knit and pull the yarn through all those 3 stitches. Okay, and sometimes this can be a little tricky, so let me try that one more time. And this is where your yarn may also split, so just be careful that your yarn doesn't split. Okay, I've pulled the yarn through, but you don't want to throw off those 3 stitches on the left needle. Now you're going to do a yarn over. So you're going to bring the yarn over, and now you're going to reinsert that needle again through through the back loops of those 3 stitches, and you're going to knit it again. So you'll notice that we now have 3 stitches, and you're going to have to do a little bit of wiggling right here to bring that stitch out. Again, helps if your knitting is loose, but you'll notice that from those 3 stitches we've made 3 stitches, so we really haven't decreased anything. We've just formed that little knot. All right, and so you're going to keep doing this until you get to the last 2 stitches in this row. So we'll see this a couple more times. I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to insert it through the back loops, and you can actually just insert it like this, and now you're in the back loops. Okay, once, then you're going to do a yarn over, and remember, once more through the back loops. And this very first row that you're doing this, it's going to be a little bit on the tougher side, but as you knit and you keep knitting looser, it'll be good. And what I like to do is I like to again wiggle it here, make these stitches really loose before I toss off those 3 stitches. We'll see that one more time. Insert through the back loops, knit once, bring the yarn over, and knit again, mind. You really have to use your muscles here to bring that stitch through the second time. It can be a little hard. This is why having pointy needles helps. Okay, when you get to the last 2 stitches, you're just going to knit them. Knit 1 and knit 2. That's the end of row 2. And you'll notice how the work has really shrunk, right? Even though we had 12 stitches, it looks really small. And so that's one thing with this pattern, is that the work kind of shrinks, just like you would with the rib stitch, just like it would do with the rib stitch. Okay, row 3, just a purl all the way across. And this time I'm really going to try and hold the tension very, very loose, so that on the next row, when I do this knit 3 together, it'll be a little bit easier, and you can see how loose I'm holding these stitches when I'm holding the yarn. Okay, there. Now row 2, or row 3 rather, I'm sorry, this was just row 3, I apologize, this was row 3, now we're on row 4. Row 4, you're going to start off by knitting 2 stitches, and then you're going to do the same knit 3 together through the back loop, yarn over, knit 3 together to the back loop until you get to the last stitch. So we have 3 times, we have to do that 3 times for this sample. So here we go. And again, now that I have the stitches a lot looser, it's going to be much easier to insert through that back loop. Once, yarn over, insert it again, and 3 stitches. Do that one more time. Insert through the back loop, yarn over, insert through the back loop, and one more time. Yarn over, knit 3 together through the back loop. And you'll notice it was so much easier this row than it was in the previous row. And then the last stitch, you're just going to knit 1. So that's the end of row 4. Row 5 is just going to be a purl. So the good thing is, after each of those tough rows, as I call them, where your arms really get a workout, the following row is where you can relax, loosen up the tension, and literally and figuratively, and just do your purl row. So if you're knitting if you decide to use this for a blanket project or a shawl project, and you have a lot of stitches, then you can use this row to relax your fingers a little bit. All right, and then the final row, row 6, is where you're going to knit 3 stitches at the start. And so we knit the first 3 stitches, and then we do the knit 3 together through the back loop until the last 3 stitches. So here we go. We're going to do knit 3 together, yarn over, knit 3 together, and once more, knit 3 together. Oh, I split the yarn over here. Let me try that one more time. And this yarn here is a cotton blend, which is why it's prone to splitting a little bit more than some of the acrylic yarns or wool blend yarns might be. Okay, so you're going to keep doing this until the last 3 stitches, and then the last 3 stitches in this row 6 you're just going to knit. And that's it. That is the pattern. So essentially what we're doing is we're staggering the knots by 1 stitch in each of those rows, and that's what causes this pretty little diagonal pattern to form. So I think it's a wonderful stitch, and it'll work really great for pretty much any project. But if you wanted to try a cowl, you have 2 choices. You can either cast on a lot of stitches for the length of the cowl and then knit upwards this way, and then when you're done, seam the 2 edges. Or you can actually make the cowl such that you're actually you have the work sitting this way. So you have your cast on edge, and you could do a provisional cast on. If you're not familiar with that, I've provided a link in the description field to that video. You can do a provisional cast on for the width of your cowl, so maybe about, I don't know, 6 inches or 8 inches, and then do the pattern, work the pattern to the, again, the length of the cowl that you'd like. And then you can seam the 2 stitches. You pick up the provisional cast on stitches and then your live stitches, and you can seam them with the Kitchener stitch. And again, I've provided a link to that video in the description field as well. And I think it'll look really pretty. Your cowl will sit like this, and you can see that the pattern forms these pretty little stars, or actually they almost look like triangles from this angle, and I think it'll look really pretty as a cowl. But any project you try with this, I think it'll work great. And if you have any questions about the pattern or for ideas for projects, please leave them in the comments field. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel to be up to date on all my upcoming videos. And thank you so much for your support. Happy knitting!